They've been good.
I could call budget appropriations to order at 7 o'clock. Thank you all for being here. Well, I have no motions on the agenda tonight. As you know, back in October, we had asked our auditor to keep a careful look at the bus transportation at that point, and to come back and give us an update. Now, we had originally scheduled an update in January, and then we had a couple snowstorms, a couple of more snowstorms. So here it is, February, and we're ready for the update. So I'd like to ask Deb Gould to come before the committee. She's passed some information out to us. Welcome.
Thank you.
And bus transportation. Oh, and Mrs. Parika,
I will excuse myself now.
thank you for coming, and we'll bring you back out a little later on.
There'll be a day, I swear I'll be able to stay.
Thank you.
I just wanted to thank you for having me. I just wanted to give you a quick and brief update on transportation, specifically focusing on the funding and financing. I handed out sort of a three-part spreadsheet. The top part of the spreadsheet above the green bar is information that's pulled directly off Munis today. So that's, as of today, posted information in the city's computer software system. You can see your original appropriation to the school transportation was the $3,083,347. The council did the supplemental appropriation in October of 2014 at the $400,000, bringing the revised total appropriation up to the $3,483,347. To date, the school department has actually spent 1.758 of that, and they have encumbrances of $1,467,000, and encumbrance is a representation of either a formal contractual obligation like we have with Bloom, or it's a representation of securing funds in the system for potential transportation of McKinney-Vento students, which was a pretty big deal to all of us last year, where those weren't actively being put into the Munis system, so we truly had no idea where we potentially were through fiscal year end. The school has made a really good effort and put those all in the Munis system. It does create somewhat of a little extra work for them and for everybody, because you could have a McKinney-Vento student enter today, and maybe 10 days from now, if they're able to go into a different program or they are housed permanently here in Attleboro, they would no longer be transported through the McKinney-Vento line, and you would have to remove that purchase order. But the rule that the school department has been following so far this year, since your $400,000 supplemental appropriation, is to enter all purchase orders for the balance of a year once they know of a student. Again, knowing of the student is sometimes a little bit tricky, but it's my understanding that the communication between the school personnel and vendors and the school personnel here and other school personnel in surrounding communities that we may share costs with has improved, so that that is a much more accurate reflection of what's happening with a better timetable and what their expectation might be. Presently, they have $257,000 unencumbered available for expenditure in the transportation line. If you took a look at that, you'll see that two of the lines are $70,512, which is a salary line, and the second big ticket item there is also a salary line, salary other, for $110,000. Both of those lines are the remaining funds available for current employees within the school district that do transportation-related services and expenses. They had some changes in personnel at the school department on the administrative side of the bus transportation, which is why the $70,000 is there. They have a new hire, and I would expect some of that money to be spent. The school's forecast for expenditures in that particular line through fiscal year end is about $80,000. They probably won't hit all 80, but that would be able to be used in other areas of transportation. So that's the top part of your spreadsheet, directly from Munis, stuff that I can go in and look up, and if you had any specific questions on any of those lines, I could investigate that for you from my desk and give you information on that. The second or middle part of the spreadsheet is derived from a spreadsheet provided to me from the school department. And what I extrapolated from that spreadsheet was the current budget, which is the same as the revised budget up and available in Munis, and their current forecast of needs through June 30th as of January 31st. So this spreadsheet was given to me in early February. It's representative of information of what the school thought was going to happen through June. And if you look at that, the net shortage that they're forecasting is about $59,000 $821 through June 30th. When I was here in October, their forecast of what they thought they'd be short through the year was $159,000. So it's about $100,000 difference, favorable to the fact that we don't have to come up with that much more money. So obviously, my first question to the school in all of this process is, how come? And one of the reasons is that the school department has made a real effort to not only monitor the student population that moves into SPED out of district and that kind of stuff, but they've been coordinating between the special education office, the student services office, which monitors the McKinney-Vento, and what they've explained to me is that they're really trying to be efficient and use rational transportation, putting more than one child on the bus if they can, or is it a minivan that can be used, those types of things. There has not been a significant decline in student population that we're serving. It's my understanding that the population being served is actually equal to, or in some cases greater than last year. Most of their improvement is because they're being better stewards of the taxpayers' money and really trying to come up with efficiencies in their program. That's my understanding of why we're better today than we were forecasting in October. Right now, they're thinking 59,000, in a conversation to them, that sometimes they say 50. I know they're reluctant to say, oh, it could be 50 or 59, it could be more, Deb, So right now, I'm thinking, it's reasonable. I understand a conversation both yesterday with the superintendent and the business finance director at the school. I had a conversation with them, and one of the important dates relative to SPED is, as I understand it, children that are in our school district now, if you're an out-of-district placement, if a new child were to come into our district today, we would be financially responsible for them. If the transition date is April 1st or later, the financial liability stays with the district that the child moved into our district from. Does that make sense? So we've sort of settled on, I think it's a good idea for us to sit down again and revisit in April, right after the 1st, so that we have a better idea of where we are, and then I'd come back with a recommendation. In the fall, I had spoken with Mayor Dumas and said, they're saying 159, given what happened last year. I think you need to at least earmark someplace in your head $200,000. Today, I had a conversation with Mayor Dumas and said, maybe if their numbers hold true and that they look so much better, maybe it's more like 100. Let's kind of keep in our head that, and then finalize these numbers in April. The other thing that Mayor Dumas and I did speak about was, if the number comes in that they're saying, because in April, we don't want to be where we were last year coming back twice. None of us want that. So I said, well, if they're thinking 59,000 and that kind of holds true through April, would you consider maybe doing the 100? And then saying anything that they don't need, we could ask the council if they could use it towards an eligible net school spending expense, which is sort of last year, we did the 135 and they used some of their own resources and kicked it in. So to do that. Does that make sense? That would be the recommendation that I would go to the administration and say, you need to give them at least whatever the forecast is, but I don't want to be coming back twice and saying, what, we forecasted 59,000 and it's 72, we have to go twice. My recommendation would be to go a little bit higher.
Question mark?
Yeah, Deb, I guess my, I'm not inclined to necessarily go more.
Okay.
This is what I'm thinking. I think if it's April 1st, they're not gonna know till the 15th or so. By the time you get back here will be the middle of April.
Great. Yep.
Or late April. That leaves one more, a month and a half to 2
Yep.
months of school if it keeps snowing. So I guess, for me to be supportive of giving any additional money, and clearly we have to give it, but I don't think we should give any more than we have to.
Okay.
So that's my opinion. If we think it's 59, whatever, and we gave them 60, I would be okay with that. But I think giving them $40,000 more than what you forecast, to me, I don't think I would support that.
Okay. can I ask you a question?
Sure.
If we said it was 59, would the council be more comfortable with us coming back again if the 59, and we said 60, and it ends up being 65? You know what I mean? Like, I just don't, I need to be able to say to my colleagues here and recommend, this is what I would do, or this is, because ultimately what happens is that a bill gets, put aside and shelved. I don't know how much capacity, well, the school wouldn't have the capacity because it's a net school spending ineligible item, you know what I mean? So we have to have the funding. And I'm not saying, Councilor Cooper, that you need to answer that today. I just would need some guidance from the council about, and obviously, it's really, honestly, doesn't even matter to me. It's the mayor that would have to submit something.
Sure, no, I get it, but I'm not doing anything unless you say that. I mean, this has gone through too many sausage machines to be messing around with it. So the bottom line is, first and foremost, for me, I appreciate all that you've done to try to help us understand what's going on here. That's my first comment. And then to follow up to that, I would be inclined to have them come back a second time if they needed more money, because I would feel confident that what you were coming back with was actually what they needed and not some whimsical number that just came from, I could never be clear of where it came from.
Okay.
So me, and I'm one of, many, would support coming back if you said, 50,000 and you made it 75, I might be okay with that, but
The other option too is come back a
$40,000
little later.
spread.
I can, instead of coming, I can assess it in April with them and see where we are, and always come back to you. Instead of really being, gotta get down there in April, I can come down, in May. The real important thing, I think, part of the important thing with the administration in particular is, don't come back at the end of the day saying you need money. We've done our diligence and said, hey, you know what, up front. So I can come back later. Or give you guys a verbal update in April, and then ask for the appropriation in May,
Yeah.
The more information we have. Mr. Churchill?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I agree with Mr. Cooper, but last year, this was like in a shroud. This year, it's out in front of us. We know what's going on. I don't think there's any, I don't want to use the word hocus pocus, but last year, everybody was, what's going on? You've enlightened us enough and already alerted us to the fact they may need more money. I personally would not have a problem if you came back again. And I support what he says. I'd go close to what you need, and if they have to come back, they have to come back.
okay.
But now we're making him stay on the line, and apparently they're trying to do that anyway. So right now it's out in the open. I wouldn't have a problem with that at all.
Okay, the only other thing relative to transportation that I am aware of, and peripherally, is I know that the school is looking at, and I know there was an article in the paper today, looking at transportation as a whole, and depending on what direction they're gonna go in for certain services, at some point, they're going to have to come back for the lease portion of some equipment if they retain those services in-house. I don't have information relative to that today, because I think they need to make policy decisions within that department and that committee, and that may be coming before you. I have no expectation that something of that nature is gonna be here before June, but perhaps for fiscal 16, that might be something, and that was part of what was cut in the original appropriation stuff from the administration before it came downstairs. And I know there's been CIP discussions with you and that kind of stuff. So that's not part of this discussion for the amount of money that they need. It's just, I think it's sort of potentially going to be out there, and I don't want somebody to say, nobody ever mentioned that, how come, you know what I mean? But not enough of information of that regard has been forwarded to me. I know that they're making decisions about their transportation plan, so to speak.
Follow up, Mr. Chairman? They also brought that to our attention too, when they were doing the improvement. So we know that's on the drawing board also. So
Okay.
I don't see any surprises so far.
The lower portion of the spreadsheet is just their forecasted numbers that they had for us in, October 31st. And then the right-hand column is the forecast as of January 31st. So it shows you, relative to the budget, what the two differences were, so that you kind of have a trend of what was happening.
And I'm really appreciative of the fact that they're 100,000, they're down 100,000, they're watching those dollars a lot better, so, and I understand there's the moving target of McKinney-Vento, and to a degree, the special education transportation, but But I do appreciate the fact that between what you do and some of the issues that we've brought up, they're now watching those, better stewards of those dollars
Yeah.
as we've gone forward, so I do appreciate that. So, other questions from my colleagues? Any, Mr. Cook? Oh, you're all set?
No, just trust me.
Okay. So, are there any other issues anywhere else that you wanted to bring up?
Not really issues. I mean, there's a lot going on in the city. There's a lot of projects. The approval from the Department of Revenue came in earlier this week for the Schedule A, so I'll forward a letter on that, in that regard to the council. And I can make a PDF copy available to anybody that wants to see it, or electronically send it. I don't know if people have a preference in that regard. The financial statements are finalized. Those are going to bound copy and print this week and filing with the Federal Audit Clearinghouse, so that's exciting. It's all done. So, I know, go ahead, make fun of Deb. But, I mean, it's done. It's a big deal. We did an interview earlier this week with Stanton & Poor's and the Treasurer's Office and the administration, and there's another offering. There's criteria and there's comments in the management letter and the single audit and stuff after you get it. If you want to ask any questions, please feel free. I mean, there's all sorts of moving targets, but
Okay.
we haven't, I don't know. So, I mean, there's lots going on. I mean, the city's very busy. And we're very busy accounting for all that you appropriate and do in the city. You're keeping us very active with lots to do. So.
Okay. Well, Deb, I want to thank you for all you do in watching this. I think by keeping your microscope on this, it has really helped us be able to keep a handle on it, feel comfortable with where we're going with it. We know that they'll need an additional appropriation at some point between now and the end of the year, but I feel pretty confident that we'll be able to decide on a number based on your recommendation and be able to fairly confident move our way through June with a number that we can be confident in. So I appreciate all you do for that.
Thank you. And a lot of what I'm doing is just trying to make sure what they're telling me makes sense.
Yeah.
I mean, they really have been very cooperative. They're putting in the purchase orders, which is really key to the process. They're keeping up with stuff is, much more than they were last year. So.
Again, $100,000 savings. They're doing what we're...
They're talking to each other over there. It's, especially since they're transporting the same number of students. And granted, maybe last year one was a little bit further away, and, some of those things might have shifted, but they are, there's been significant improvements in efficiencies, which, that's huge. I mean, it's a lot of money for transporting kids. So if I hear anything else relative to transportation, I'll certainly let you know.
Appreciate that.
I'll update you in April, and maybe at that time I'll have a better idea of whether it should be one appropriation at that time or a later appropriation, or should we take one now? Some of that might be driven by, I obviously want to keep the bills current. I want vendors to be paid timely.
Of course.
So I'll kind of figure out that assessment with the school's input, and then,
The committee meeting would either be the 14th or the 28th, so you let me know what would be, those would be the committee meetings in April.
okay.
And so
Okay,
just
very
let me
good.
know what's good for you, and we'll make it happen.
Okay, excellent. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks for coming in.
Thank you.
That's all the business I have for budget and appropriations. I move to adjourn.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
We're adjourned at 7:19. Thank you.
Yeah, 'cause we have 5 Tuesdays in March too, right?
Yeah. Yeah, I looked ahead.
Yeah.
He'll figure something out for us.
Yeah.
Come March.
There's bound to be a special meeting somewhere.
So the Committee on Ordinances, Elections, and Legislative Matters is canceled for tonight.
Thank you.
And the committee for licenses is canceled for tonight.
Okay.
Anybody know about capital improvements?
Well, he'll be coming later, so I would wait on that one.
If
If we
it's,
rush through, we could
Mark?
be out of here before.
if
Mark?
it's still here.
Yep.
Did you
Zoning
wanna-
and land use?
Is on a business trip, so did you want to cancel for him?
Yes, zoning and land use is canceled this evening.
Okay, thank you.
City,
Public Works?
Yeah.
I have
Public Works.
2 motions this evening.
city property and claims is canceled for tonight.
Call Public Works to order at 7:20 in the docket of March 3rd, 2015. I entertain a motion to approve the request of the mayor to appropriate $7,194 from account 6100-359000 Water Enterprise Funds Retained Earnings to account 6100-553180 Water Enterprise Fund Supplies Water and Wastewater in order to purchase 600 hydrant markers.
Second.
This has been a subject of conversation over the last few years, and this is the first step in outfitting our hydrants with some type of markers. This original appropriation will take care of 600 hydrants, mainly 152, 123. And then the next step will be in different areas. Yes, Ms. Hegman?
Thank you. As you said, we've been talking about this, and I think this would be great to have the markers. I actually wanted to ask you a question, because I don't want to step on
Yeah.
another chair's toes or anything. I have a constituent who's been going around the city, digging out fire hydrants, marking them,
Yeah.
trying to see where they all are. I don't know if I'm allowed to, I don't want to step on your toes,
Go
but
ahead.
do we have a list of where they are?
Oh,
He
you
was
do.
asking for a current, up-to-date.
Yeah, that's definitely.
the
a
fire?
water
Fire department has it on a computer.
Okay, just because he's been willing to help out with
Yeah.
that, so. And then-
I'm sure both the fire department, water department has it.
He asked me, you probably know him
I
better.
know they
so-
share information.
Yeah.
Awesome.
And this is not the first time we've tried this
No.
flags on the hydrants.
Right.
Yeah, there's
And
some
it
pros
la-
and cons, and
It
we'll,
lasted a while. It's an ongoing process, so if I may,
Yeah.
Mr. Chairman. I mean, you've got to stay on it.
Yeah.
600 is the beginning. By the time you get to the end, you got to start all over again. Some are missing. But
Yeah.
I think it's a worthwhile enterprise.
especially as we've seen this last couple of 3 weeks, I mean, the hydrants are only this tall and the snowbanks are this tall, so. I know I marked the ones in my neighborhood.
I noticed the same, driving my bus route, people are being very generous and thankfully digging out the hydrants, and then they're marking them with shovels or broomsticks or broken, car cleaner
I've seen,
brush.
I've seen a lot of those.
It's a variety of things, bags.
Street markers, you know, we use it along the sidewalks and
Yeah.
whatnot. So people are being conscious of them, and thank those people who get out and shovel those hydrants. God forbid, you have a fire in a neighborhood and it takes an extra 10 minutes, 15 minutes to find a hydrant and dig it out. It could be life and death for somebody in the house.
And then you find out it's frozen
Yeah.
because it wasn't cleaned out, so
Any
there's a
other
lot of
que-
pluses to clean.
Any other questions or comments? Hearing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye, motion passes. From the docket of March 3rd, 2015, I entertain a motion to approve the request of the mayor to appropriate $1,016.16 from Fund 1000-3590000, undesignated fund general government free cash, to account 1291100-513002, emergency management, police, blizzard overtime, and $12,156.25 from Fund 1000-3590000, undesignated fund general government free cash, to account 1291100-513005, emergency management fire blizzard overtime, relative to costs associated with Winter Storm Juno.
Second.
This is a follow-up. We passed some new accounts for deficit spending in order to better track it, so that if and when the funds become available, we can push that button. The computers will spit out where it's spent, what overtime, and we'll be at the top, hopefully, in getting some of this money from feds and the state infiltrate back into our system, because it has been tremendous over the last month, going expenses. And if we can track it better, it'll be easier for Deb to come up with those figures when we have to submit them. Yes, sir.
I happened to speak with Ron Dubuque yesterday, and he said that the guys have been working 35 days straight. And on top of that, a lot more overtime on top of that. So they've probably put in, 50 or 60 man days in the 35 days that they've been working. So, and yet, I say, oh, can't we do this and can't we do this? And just to do the stuff they have to do on a daily basis, they've been working straight 35 days. So, I mean, they're straight out.
These guys are tired, and I think they've done a heck of a job, with the circumstances they've had to deal with. And as I said last week, when they get through working for us as a city, they still have homes and stuff to go home to catch up on, so tough job. Yes, Mr. Churchill.
Mr. Chairman, has it been established a starting date and ending date, or is a date open on the end for the reimbursement? Is it, too bad Debbie left.
I don't know if they've come up with any particular storms. I think state of emergency has a lot to do with it and whatnot.
Well, I saw the governor has been petitioning for the disaster funds.
Yeah.
But there's gotta be a starting date and an ending date. We could still be in the date. I'm just curious what it
But
was.
that's why we form those accounts, so we could adequately track it when they come up with that.
She's here.
Yeah, there's no starting dates and ending dates as far as
Storms.
for funding.
Did you know?
No. So are you talking about the transfer from the?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right, that's because that money cannot be deficit spent. Those expenditures are not eligible for deficit spending under the statute. But we want to account for those under 291, so that if FEMA and MEMA respond that, yes, you're going to be in line for money,
Yeah.
some of the preliminary reports have gone in, it's about $250,000 on the preliminary report. We don't know yet whether or not we're going to get the money. If we do receive the money, it could be into next fiscal year that the money is ever seen. The critical piece for my office is tracking it. It's important to try to keep the Juno expenses. So this was one of the ways that we developed to do it. And then I didn't understand when Mayor Dumas and I had originally spoken about allowing deficit spending in the 291 accounts. The public safety departments brought people in, and some of the people they brought in weren't actually moving snow. So if it's a snow-related cost, I can deficit spend it under the statute. If it's the additional people to come in and work an emergency management center that's fielding non-snow calls, which is the police department, did that type of thing, those don't count under the 291 deficit spending, so an appropriation is needed. We had discussions about, should we keep it in the fire department and the police department and stuff? They didn't. So those expenditures are eligible potentially for FEMA and MEMA reimbursement, but they're not eligible for deficit spending under the statute. So it's just to keep everything separate. And after the fact, I'm like, oh, we need to do the appropriation for just those two pieces.
If I may, Mr. Chairman. So, Debbie, there used to be a time envelope for public safety, at least. If you brought people in, and anything that
24
happened within that envelope was subject for review for reimbursement.
48-hour contiguous time frame within so I believe, let's say for that particular storm, it started on the 25th
And then on the
and ran
27th.
through the 31st.
Okay.
And let's just pretend that's it. Within that 6-day period, what you would try to identify is the most expensive 48 hours and submit reimbursement for the most expensive eligible 48 hours during the posted time frame under FEMA. And then what each individual department does, and they coordinate this with the administration, is they fill out sheets and information, labor sheets, time sheets, there's equipment-related sheets. There's, depending on the type of storm that it is, this is a blizzard, but in other instances, you've had weather events that might be flooding, so sandbags, like whatever it is that's eligible under FEMA's guidelines, you want to account for that so that you can maximize your potential reimbursement later on. you try to account for as much as you possibly can, and we're getting better at this each year and learning how can we, manage this and do better. We've learned with Hurricane Irene, we learned some stuff. Winter Storm Nemo, we learned some stuff. Winter Storm Juno, we're doing this. And the piece this year that was a little bit different is we did request deficit spending for snow accounts, and then these two types of expenditures are not eligible under the deficit spending, which is why this appropriation is before you. So next time, I hope there isn't a next time, but if there is, we'll think of that ahead of time, and we'll sort of do it in a two-part request.
Thank you.
Does that help?
Any other questions for the one with all the answers at the bottom?
Oh, let the girl go
My
home.
car started, so I'm going now.
Thanks, Debbie.
Nice night, thank you.
Thank you.
But at least she's very humble.
Huh?
At least she's very humble.
Oh, she is. We're very lucky to have her up there. Any other questions or comments? Hearing none, all those in
Aye.
favor? Aye.
Aye.
Thank you. What are you laughing at, Ron?
I didn't mean to turn it into a Reader's Digest version of a labyrinth, but that was a good tangent on her part. She's smart.
Yeah, very good. That's all I have. I'll move to adjourn.
Second.
Second, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. We are adjourned. Thank you.
Richard, do you want to go before?
Let's call the capital improvements in city development meeting to order at 7:31. I have one item to bring before you this evening. From the docket of March 3rd, 2015, I entertain a motion to approve the request of the mayor to appropriate $6,000 from account 610000, that's 6100-359000, Water Enterprise Fund retained earnings to fund 3316 Water Storage Facility to conduct a peer review to evaluate stormwater management presented by the Horsley Witten Group for the storage vehicle maintenance building at West Street. Thank you, Council Thibodeau. The mayor received correspondence from Paul Kennedy saying that while the engineering firm of Beals and Thomas has been selected by the city planner to do a peer review, it may be required to have another one. So the first one is $3,250, so he's asking for $6,000 in case he needs to have two peer reviews on the stormwater system for the water department building. Any questions? Comments? Motion's in order, all in favor? Aye. Motion passes. That completes the businesses that I have to bring before you this evening. Entertain a motion to adjourn.
Second.
Motion's in order, all in favor?
Aye.
I declare the Capital Improvement City Development Committee disbanded at 7:33. Thank you.
At the end of the meeting, we were trying to just. Meeting is gonna be on Thursday. No?
I'd like to call Transportation and Traffic to order at 7:33. I have one motion to bring forward and that one announcement to make. From the docket of December 16th, 2014, I entertain a motion to adopt the following ordinance. Ordinance relative to isolated stop signs. Be ordained by the Municipal Council that Section 10-4.11, isolated stop signs of the revised ordinances of the City of Attleboro be hereby amended by adding the following in proper alphabetical order. Eastbound and westbound drivers on Dale Avenue at the intersection of Woodcrest and Edgecliff Avenue.
Second.
Thank you. We had a public hearing about this last week. We had no one speak against it, no one speak in favor of it. So I don't see any reason why don't go ahead and approve it, or bring it forward to the full council for approval. Yes, Mr. Curtis.
Well, Don and Judy Forget were here speaking in favor for it, so there was some support of the.
Yes, you're right. My apologies to them. You're correct.
Went so smooth.
Yeah, it would,
Yeah.
it was easy. Which, Hasn't been that way this year.
My understanding is they've asked for this in the past as well. So.
Yes, but the fact that we don't have those traffic counts that we had, that restricted us from doing this previously, don't have those restrictions anymore, so it makes it more available to be able to do it at all locations now than it was before. Further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, motion passes, thank you. President Cook, do you wanna?
Thank you. I just wanted to inform all my colleagues, as well as the residents of the ward I represent, Ward 3, in particular those who live on North Avenue, in that area, that on Thursday night at 6 o'clock here in the Council Chambers, the Department of Transportation is having a public hearing relative to a upcoming project, which is the replacement of both the northbound and southbound I-95 bridges where it crosses over North Avenue. So you may have seen there was a legal notice in the paper earlier this week, I think it was Sunday, and that gives you some of the details. So there's going to be a public hearing here. It's at 6 o'clock, although I think that the first half hour they'll have the plans on display and people can come in and take a look at them, and then the hearing will actually start at 6:30. My understanding is that it's scheduled to run from about 6 o'clock to about 7:30, again, depending upon public input. I'm not sure, and I don't believe that a date was on the legal notice that I read. Some of the correspondence that I've had on it doesn't give a start date on this, and we all know the way that the state projects work. They have to have the hearings well in advance, they have to take comments and so forth. So that's going to be this coming Thursday night, 6 o'clock here in the Council Chambers. So anybody in Ward 3 that lives in that area or has any questions may want to attend that hearing. My understanding is that the way they're going to work on this is they'll do a one direction first, and I understand they're going to actually be similar to what they did some of the other projects where they'll be using the median strip, temporarily, for the traffic, and then they'll do one side, and then when that's done, they'll come back and they'll do the other side, kind of just reversing it. So the plan should give us more details at that time. But I just want to make sure everybody's aware of that, and especially the people in the ward that I represent who live in that area, that it would be probably in your best interest to come to the meeting and find out what is going on. Okay? So, thank you.
Any questions for President Cook about that?
That's about all that I know about it at the moment.
No problem. I would entertain a motion to adjourn.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? We are adjourned at 7:38. Thank you.
Thank you, Richard.
Public Safety Emergency Management is canceled this evening? No.
I already canceled.
Oh.
You're the last one.
I just wanted to make sure. Okay, I'd like to call Personnel and Human Services to order at 7:38 p.m. For the first motion from the docket of March 3rd, 2015, I entertain a motion to confirm the appointment of Ashley Candiles. If I pronounced that wrong, I apologize. Candiles, it looks like, so. To fill an expired 2-year term on the Youth Commission, term to expire February 2017.
Second.
This is for the Youth Commission, and I wish her well. And we have a great group of kids. Okay, any other comments? All in favor? Aye. Thank you, motion passes. The second motion, it's more of a lengthy little read-through, so we're actually lucky that the committee is a little short tonight. So I'm gonna read it through. From the docket of February 3rd, 2015. I entertain a motion to amend the personnel rules and regulations for exempt and unrepresented employees by replacing the current longevity amounts to the following amounts below and adding the new article 11 light duty. A, amend to read as follows and to take effect on July 1st, 2015. Article 10, longevity. 10 years $500. 15 years, $900. 20 years, $1,100. 25 years, $1,300. And B, in the new article as follows. Article 11, light duty. Members of the bargaining unit shall be eligible for temporary light duties assignments, regardless of whether they are absent from duty due to personal illness or a work-related injury. To be eligible for light duty, an employee must be able to perform some or all of his or her regular duties on either a full or part-time basis, or to be able to perform a specific light duty assignment developed by the head of his or her department. To be eligible for light duty, an employee must submit a note from his or her treating physician stating that the employee is able to perform light duty and any specific requirements concerning the employee ability to perform or inability to perform certain tasks. If a department head believes an employee may be ready to return to work on a regular or light duty basis, he or she may contact the employee about returning to work. If the employee declines to return to work, the department head may require the employee to be examined by the city physician or another physician designated by the city for an evaluation for fitness for light duty at the city's expense. If the city physician finds the employee fit for full or light duty, the employee shall immediately return to work in full or light duty capacity, unless he or she provides a note from his or her treating physician disagreeing with the finding of the city physician. Both the city physician and the employee's physician shall be provided with a copy of the employee's job description and a description of any proposed light duty assignment. The employee's physician shall be afforded full opportunity to consult with the city's physician as to the employee's fitness to perform a light duty assignment or return to full duty. If the employee's physician and the city physician disagree as to such fitness, quote, they shall thereupon jointly designate a physician agreeable to both, who at the city's expense shall examine the employee and render a written medical opinion as to the employee's fitness, copies of which shall be transmitted by the employee to both the city physician and the employee's own physician. In the event of their inability to agree upon a third physician, a physician shall be jointly selected by the employee and the city. Pending receipt of such opinion, the city shall not require the employee to return to duty and shall continue to fully compensate him or her on workers' compensation or sick leave for the time lost due to any such absence, assuming the employee is otherwise eligible for said benefits. If the third physician determines that the employee is not fit to return to full or light duty, the employee shall be continued on sick leave or workers' compensation benefits, assuming he or she is otherwise eligible for said benefits. If the third physician determines that the employee is fit to return for full duty or fit to return to limited duty, or that the employee's current disability is not related to the injury, the employee shall no longer be continued on paid leave, subjects to the provisions of Mass General Law, Chapter 152. The opinion of the third physician shall be final and binding on all the parties. His or her determination shall be subject to the grievance arbitration provisions of this agreement. These rules and regulations supersede all previously issued rules and regulations for the applicable employees. Yes.
Because I have more. Anyway, second.
Second, thank you. And this, as I started in the beginning, thank you for your second, is for the exempt and unrepresented. So when you look back at the contracts that you had already, this coincides with what you already okayed for the unions. This is for the exempt and unrepresented parts of it. And just for like the longevity, it used to be I saw some differences between the different unions and departments, and that was all agreed upon. And so this is just for the non-unions. And thank you, Mr. Churchill, for all your help again, for all you did. Any other questions or comments? I know it was a lot of verbosity there. Okay.
Pretty much mimics civil service law. If I
Right.
may say, that pretty much mimics civil service law, and now they're covering the people who are not covered by civil service.
Yes. Yeah, chapter 152.
It doesn't rule out that you might end up with one.
Nothing does.
Okay. Well, I just want to make sure everybody's okay and that it does coincide with what we had already agreed upon for the unions. Okay? Any other questions, comments? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, thank you. And lastly, I'm not going to take too much more time, but since Mr. Conte's here, and I want to talk to you separately too, because as we talked about before, we are allowed to talk to each other. He's not on this committee, but you had brought in some different business. And on the tuition reimbursement part, I don't know if I got cut off I wanted to have some of the exact wording that you want so I can amend it in committee and then take it out for a full vote on that.
I think, if I may,
Yes, that's fine.
that measure was brought forth in a separate communication from the mayor. He was trying to incorporate the concept into, and I thought what he had was fine.
Okay, well, I had asked you, but you and another counselor had said they was concerned about the scheduling or the tuition, so I just wanted to double check.
Yeah, I don't think that, that's a serious issue. And it's certainly not gonna stop it from going through
Right.
to become an ordinance. When I came up with the measure originally, it was an adaptation of the Sun Bank employee manual measure. And that's a great big giant corporation. We're not, we're a municipality, you know, so I think it's best that we hammer out what we think is right. And if the mayor is, I'm happy to see the mayor adopting it. And if he's adopted in a manner that he thinks is digestible, then I'm willing to go along with that.
Okay, well, I just want to make sure as the chair that when you bring in that the wording that you want is done and then I'll bring it out. Okay, just to facilitate that. And then on the anti-bullying, have you gone in a different avenue at all? Because on this before, you had said that maybe you didn't bring it in the right way, or that you should have went for a different approach.
Still talking about the tuition reimbursement?
No, the anti-bullying.
Oh, the anti-bullying, yeah. I think when Counselor,
It'll come to you in the next thing, so go ahead, and then
Yeah.
it'll pop in.
the anti-bullying measure is far more complex than what any of us originally thought. And the mayor has received significant pressure to push forward. But the reality is that the problem-oriented police unit, the POP unit, seems to be a major step forward. There is a Senate bill, I don't think I have it here with me, that is in front of the Senate. It has been reintroduced for this legislative session that deals with specifically Massachusetts public housing and the issue of bullying. And I think I agree with former council that used to sit in Council Prega's chair, and I can't think of her name right now.
Carolyn Reynolds.
Yes,
Councilor
Counselor
Reynolds,
Reynolds.
right. Councilor Reynolds. She pointed out a lot of the issues that we have in trying to adopt a local measure without first having it cut in the legislature and the State House. And I agree with that. I think that if the legislature can come up with a law and a bill passed and signed by the governor, that we can easily adopt it. And that we're not qualified to develop a measure on our own. I wish we could. Boy, do I wish we could. So, I'm very pleased with the Human Rights Commission for bringing the subject to light. I would like to commend them that they've done a wonderful job, and I'm very proud of the council for the measures that they took in the past, getting it onto the mayor's desk. But I do see the issues that the mayor has to deal with in trying to take the next step.
So what would you like this committee to do? Because I know the length of that, and to reprint it, do you want me to just keep it in the committee, or can I delete it? Or
I think-
as your motion, I want to
I
ask.
think that we've done all the action that we can do. That's my feeling, and maybe other councilors have other thoughts. But my feeling is that we have done our part to give this issue some visibility. We have done our part to try to see whether or not we could legislate something that would assist some of the residents. We have done our part in putting it up on the administration's agenda where it belongs. And the police department is doing their part with their POP unit to pay attention to the issues. And the avenues that we had taken in the beginning were the wrong direction. So if you wish to strike the original proposal that I put in front of the council, I would support the striking of that from the committee.
But just because it was your business, and I'm not just going to strike something
And
without.
I appreciate that, Councilor Hayden.
Without your
I thank you
opinion.
very much for that, because
I just wanted to
I
give you
put a lot
enough
of-
time to do what other
Right,
you had
right.
to do.
Right, I have put a lot of time into this issue, attending the Human Rights Commission's meetings and meeting with people and doing some research on my own, and frankly, it's one of the worst problems I think I've come across as a counselor. One of the most demoralizing ones, for certain.
Well, and we all have someone in our lives that's been affected by bullying in some way, shape, or form. I'm sure each one of us sitting here in some way. I know my niece has Down syndrome, and we're lucky enough that she hasn't really encountered it too much right now, but it's just sad that and I'm not gonna go into all of that side.
If I could just conclude my comments, Counselor.
Yes.
We've done what we could do. I don't think we can do anything more until the state does something. Therefore, I support you striking the items that are in your committee.
Okay.
And that concludes my comments.
Thank you. And my last question is, I know it's personnel and human services, but would you like the POP unit to come in at all, or to talk about how, because I know, I don't want to overstep boundaries again, but I know Councilor Churchill even facilitating with some of the licenses that you have to do. It is hard to facilitate sometimes two different groups of people to bring together and to talk about, I don't know if that's more public safety, and I don't want to step on your toes, Mr. Cooper.
I think I would,
I might suggest that we might have a joint meeting with the Human Rights Commission.
Committee, Council.
That might take us farther, to hear their opinions about where they are and where they're going, and what was wrong with what we tried to do.
So invite them in.
To see if they want to. They may not want to. But I think that's a more appropriate avenue to take than the police POP unit.
Okay, I just want to make sure everybody's heard and everybody's opinion. Councilor Parika and then Mr. Thibodeau.
I also don't want to step on any toes, but if I could make a small recommendation, I think that as I think we all have done our research, and I know that we're in kind of a difficult position with regards to the bullying ordinance or business that came in front of us. But I think as a gesture to the individuals, to the Human Rights Council, if you would leave it, it would be my recommendation or my wish if you would keep it on your docket until you either have a conversation with them and tell them what's happening, or wait until the state of Massachusetts does something, so that they know that it's something that is in our consciousness and that we're watching for it, and that if we speak to anyone at the state level, we can urge that along, advocate for them in that manner. Just as I don't want to tell you as a chairperson what to do, but I would feel comfortable maybe as just a gesture to them.
Well, I am going to strike it, as Mr. Conte did say, but thank you. Mr. Thibodeau?
Thank you, Madam Chair. What I wanted to say about what's in your committee is that when I researched it and brought information in about it, it had to do with mass housing being involved, because the location that we were talking about and the other senior housing and family housing within the city that is state housing are all, their rents and such are all subsidized housing through the state, and it's overseen by either mass housing or, I can't think of the acronym for the housing for the state. But in any case, because the building down the road here that used to be Makepeace, that's now is the senior housing, because that's subsidized under mass housing, and there are current subsidizing going on with the residents over there. It's not, subsidies come and they go. There are some are on a time limit, some have been renewed, others have been dropped. Those over there, many of them are current. And so it seems to me that maybe we've done as much as we can do at this point on the city level, but I think if you're going to have someone come in to discuss it, I really think you need to, in addition to perhaps bringing Human Rights Council members in, to have someone from Mass Housing and DCHD is what I was trying to think of before.
Say that acronym again.
DCHD. And they're the ones who are the state governing body over all public housing that isn't, in this case, like the complex down here at the corner of, well, what used to be DE Makepeace, was it? Pine and Dunham. Thanks, Pete. It's a private entity, but it's state subsidized. So that would come under the jurisdiction of Mass Housing. So if you had someone from Mass Housing come in, you had someone from DCHD come in, then you would have more of a complete picture of the kind of legislation that the state should be doing, and if there is anything that we need to do on the local level, once we find out what the state is going to do to make it stricter.
And I think that will coincide with what Councilor Parika said, if we can come together and kind of feed out what's going on and even have a, as we've done on other issues, and have it sent up.
Sure.
And this will still be on this will be stricken, but it won't be off the docket completely. They'll see that it came in. So, and then that way maybe we can have a forum and then send something up to show that we've been affected or something. And I just trying to get everybody's opinions, and Frank and then Mr. Churchill.
Thanks, Jen. Yeah, the key thing is, don't strike this until after you have that meeting, because if you strike it, then there's nothing standing before your committee at that point. So, just if you're gonna have people come in, then strike it, because otherwise you'll have no standing.
But at some point, and that's what I was saying, I am gonna strike it.
No, I understand that, but just as a word of caution, don't strike it until you have that meeting, because once you strike it.
Well, no, I'm gonna
There's
bring
no
in a different type of business, so I can strike this off, and then, something more to what we're trying to get to is
Right.
bring something else in, because it's 4 pages, and to have the conversation, maybe that's more of the business that can be formulated,
What
instead
I
of
was-
just the ordinance.
What I was meaning by that was, actually, right now, you have enough standing, I mean, with this,
I understand what you're
even though we're not working on it, I know, Councilor Thibodeau had brought something in that went up to the administration, the state's working on
Yeah.
it. So rather than going all the work of creating something, you can use that as.
I don't mind doing the work.
I know, but you can
Okay.
use that as the basis for actually doing, continuing the discussion on it and kicking that on, as opposed to bringing in something, a new business, which is very similar to it. It may be easier to do it that way and quicker, that's all.
Okay,
So,
I'll
just a
take that
suggestion.
into suggestion.
That's why I made it, thank you.
I think I'd like to strike this. Councilor Churchill?
My only experience with bullying on this honorable body is when the people from Dunham and Pine came into this building, and I know that several of you had dealt with it before, and I even went to Mr. Kennedy's office. But the reality of it is, until it results in some sort of appreciable violence where the police can step in, no matter what we do, nothing really happens. And I don't disagree with discussing it more, but I think, like you
strike
said, it's
it.
very frustrating. And we couldn't solve that problem. They sat right here for night after night, and some of the issues were definitely involved in violence, but.
And we have an audience member that's here tonight that comes every
Yeah.
week still, so.
But I don't know, I don't know if we should keep it on the docket, I'm not smart enough legislatively, but I don't think the issue should go away. Until there's some way to come up with something that the council can do, or work with other city
And I'm gonna
agencies.
defer to the person that brought the business in.
Thank you.
Thank you. Yes.
Counselor, I'm thrilled to hear that you have something in the wings ready to bring in. That, to me, is a step forward.
To have more of a forum.
Right, and I think that's wonderful. So if you can strike what we've had,
And work
you
with
can't introduce something new until you strike what we have. So strike what we have, bring yours in, it's on the agenda, then go forward.
And I would like to work
Congratulations.
with you on that.
Congratulations.
It's
I
not
think
my
that's
idea. It's just,
that's very good news.
okay, thank you. Yes.
Two things about both of the issues you spoke about tonight. One, I guess I wouldn't, until I had an opportunity to review what you were bringing forward, I wouldn't support striking what's there, because that's just a gatekeeper, and things happen and people change, and so until then, I wouldn't support just outright striking and then someday bring in new business. But I would support it if you know, on the same night, if you propose new business and
Right.
as a more concise directive on where this was going as new business, and then strike the other matter, so be it. You weren't as clear, you were crystal clear to Councilor Perico about your intent with the anti-bullying, but you weren't as clear with your intent with regard to the previous item
Tuition.
around tuition reimbursement. Is it your plan, Chairperson, to strike that as well?
No.
Okay, so I guess I'm confused, because I thought that the mayor said that what he had proposed to us was was related to Councilor Conti bringing that forward, and if Councilor Conti is satisfied, as I think many of us were that all voted in favor of it that night, what the mayor proposed as a compromise, perhaps, I'm using that word, maybe I shouldn't be, but for lack of a better one, I'm gonna
Yeah,
call it a
compromise.
compromise. So I guess I don't understand why we need what the mayor came to us for as a compromise, and what you're now proposing as the new
I'm
business item.
not bringing
from
that
Coun-
out. I was just discussing it with him to see where
No, I
his
understand, but
thoughts.
is your intent to strike what Councilor Conti brought forward?
Not tonight,
N-
not this evening. I was just
Right.
discussing it. I didn't read it as a motion.
Right,
had
but
just-
your intent at some point is to strike that, or?
Yeah, just to double check and make sure
Okay.
everything, because you had a question.
Okay.
And he had a question, so I don't want to strike it this evening, but because of the time, I
Yeah.
thought it would be
Sure.
beneficial to have these discussions in the committee, because we were afforded that tonight without
Yeah.
having 10 committees.
Yeah.
So that's all.
Okay.
Just double checking on
All
that.
right, perfect, thank you.
Thank you. Okay. And you're okay with me striking, so I can read that as a motion? Okay. Let's see, from the supplemental docket of June 3rd, 2014, I move to strike and the motion to amend personnel rules and regulations as follows. Article 18, reimbursement of education courses, and insert the new section. And I'm gonna waive the reading of all of that.
Second.
Second? Okay. All in favor?
That's,
Oh,
that's for the course reimbursement piece, right?
yes.
Yeah. All those in favor, aye.
Oh, I'm sorry, yes.
You just
Yes,
told me-
I know, I read the wrong motion.
Okay.
I know what you're saying. You should have, if you were next to me, you would have kicked me. So
I'll move
withdraw your
withdraw
second?
the
Thank you.
second.
I understand.
Wait a minute.
Striking that.
If I was next to him, he would have kicked me, like, hey, what are you doing? Okay, I'm sorry about that. From the docket of September 3rd, I didn't have my little line. I moved to strike the anti-bullying ordinance business for the city of Attleboro, and I'll waive the whole reading of that.
At this point, I'll give you a second.
Okay, thank you. And Peter's on my committee. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
You're not gonna have any,
No.
Can I get a discussion?
you're not gonna discuss it anymore? You done?
Okay, any more discussion? Okay, we have, all in favor? Aye. Opposed?
No.
2 to 1, okay. Thank you.
And yet I don't one more comment. I don't like the motion of the anti-bullying, but I felt you need to keep it on the books, on your docket until the new piece of information is brought in.
understand what you're saying.
And so
And
I'm,
Thursday
that's why
is-
I'm gonna vote no now, and I'll vote no when you bring it out to the full council, but because I think there needs to be a placeholder. I don't like to necessarily agree with the business, and I've shared that with Mr. Conti separately, but I think we need to continue to have this piece brought forward until but
No, I understand all that, but we have this Thursday for the new business, and then so on the next new business will be coming in, which Mr. Cooper had just said, if the same night new business is coming in, when we strike it, he would support if it coincides with what we discussed. So that's why I'm saying I'm gonna strike it, because by Thursday, if we bring something in that represents what we're talking about,
yeah,
okay?
I get you.
So, that's what Councilor Cooper had just said. Okay,
Uh-huh.
so the new business will come in, and it'll be on the docket, or however they bring it in, old or new. It'll be on the new or old business next Tuesday, the same night that we're going to, maybe not, because there's 11 of us, and everyone has their own opinions. It may or may not, but I wanted to have more discussion this evening because of the time that we're allotted, that there are people that have still said, what's going on with that. And I know Council Conte and Council Jeremy Denley, because Ward 5, he was involved in all that, and other councilors. I didn't want you to think that I just forgot about this. I wanted more discussion for people to know it's still going on, but you're working at a state level, or that you're attending other city committee meetings for other things. Can you clarify? Yes.
Just so we're clear on it, this will be coming in under new business, not old business, because
Okay.
there'll be nothing at that point, given the way that the meetings will work, there'll be nothing in standing at that point, so we'll be getting new business items.
Okay. And I defer to you, that's why I figured I'd be correct again, so.
Just want to make sure everybody's clear on that. It'll be
Okay,
new business.
so new business, and we promise by Thursday to have something in writing, right, on the record, I promise. Okay, I move to adjourn the Committee on Personnel and Human Services at 8:07 PM.
Second.
Thank you, all in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.
That's a wrap.
I'm sorry, I'm a little off tonight.